Hello, everybody, and welcome to Reads Spider-Man Crawl Space Edition. Please check us out at the spidermancrawlspace.com. Well, I'm here, everybody, to, of course, record, course, review Amazing Spider-Man 63, aka 957 in legacy number here by, of course, Justine Ireland and David Musson, who will, of course, take over this part of the story arc of the eight-part Eight Deaths of Spider-Man. So I thought I'd do a little bit here and get this set up here for the sound. So let's go ahead and, of course, get this ready to go. So let's talk about exactly what we have for our days here of Amazing Spider-Man, shall we? So, the pros I actually do like this Scion of Cyttorak. I think she's a very interesting character who worked very well into this here. Scion is a very interesting one, how she uses the different past and future of the different pains here. It's actually a very interesting power. I mean, you kind of wondered what was really going to go on because all these different Cyttoraks, besides their designs, definitely original pieces here. I do kind of like Cyrus's thing, how she takes Peter not only through the passive here of his greatest problems, such as death of Uncle Ben, death of Gwen Stacy, the Venom symbiote, and more. It also shows him things that haven't occurred yet in his future, and it's really interesting how he feels those pains and everything, and how she dares him to go over that. It's actually pretty interesting, and how he actually ends up defeating Cyrus is actually a very interesting thing when he actually contacts his future self to actually deal with one of her passes, and of course surprises her and defeats her. It's really interesting how she's kind of basically outwitted by her own thing, not thinking about the fact that taking Spider-Man through all these different types of timelines would actually do the kind of damage to her own self. And it's actually pretty interesting. I actually do also, like some other people say, I actually did like the talk and stuff between Shay and Peter here. It feels more natural. I mean, let's face it, guys. I'm a very high person as well too when it comes to doing everything about the parts of Spider-Man and the supporting cast. And trust me, I will always be on the Peter Mary Jane trail and train forever. But after almost 20 years of it, we know how it's going to kind of unravel. And this is just kind of the storyline is. And I do feel like this is better natural writing. I feel like Justine Ireland actually does a really good job with the pieces up here, especially when they kind of get together, talk, as well as the picnic that they set up. It's really nice to see Peter kind of trying to go through after everything and also get more of Shay's past refuted. It works really well. And I kind of really like that little part too. But once we get past that, that's kind of where it all changes up to where it goes for the cons. First of all, here too, one thing that's been going on with the Scions here, especially towards the end of the issue when we actually have the talk between Calix and Syra, who are the two older siblings, and of course, Calix is going to be the bad guy in the fourth part here, is I feel like we're really just trending. Like I said, this is a really weird thing. And yes, the mystical aspect of Spider-Man's been put in here for the last 20 years too. I know J.M. Stravinsky really kind of got this into that little part with the Doctor Strange and everything, but it still just feels so out of place for a main Spider-Man as we do here. Also, the fact is now here is pretty much is every time Peter outwits or defeats one of the Scions, they're basically sore losers. Would basically, well, then fine, I'm just gonna go ahead and kill you since you beat me, even though I'm beaten, and you're just gonna come back to life. It's kind of ridiculous and repetitive. This is the, oh my god, they killed Kenny. What should I do now? It just kind of makes it feel like we're just not really going through, and it's very repetitive here too. Because she said surprise him, and then all of a sudden she just says, "Oh, so you surprised me and defeated? Then fine, I'm just gonna make you feel every single pain from birth to death, and in between to basically torture you to death so you die and have to come back to life again." It's kind of a very weird little piece to go there, and it's also becoming a one-trick pony here. Also, the biggest issue I have is definitely how Aunt May is depicted here. We have her so much with this. I mean, the fact that the members of the supporting cast members that know who Peter is, especially J. Jonah Jameson, and the fact we have Aunt May after all this time, after everything that's been going on, that she still does not know that Peter is Spider-Man again. And it's really repetitive and stupid. The way she's always constantly belittling him, basically saying how he's such a disappointment. And then, of course, it turns out with, of course, Peter basically yelling at her, too, especially in this case. Hey, I'm so sorry, but I've been having a terrible week and I fought God. I mean, as he says, he can't tell her, I've died and come back to life and I've been painful. And you know what? I didn't think about just doing things with the feast center and your other stuff. It's not like you haven't had stuff for me. This is tiresome. This is a very old part. They were so hard to bring May back from the dead back in the late 90s, after a fantastic thing in issue 400. And then the fact is, ever since then, they've really messed that up. Yes, going back to J. Michael Straczynski, he found a great way to use Aunt May, but after one more day and sacrificing to have her come back to life in the marriage, it just feels like May has been all over the place. We saw more stuff used for her in Nick Spencer's run, and inside this, that's shocking to say, Dan Slott's run, which was more positive with it. And this is just old and repetitive and ridiculous about how it is and how Aunt May takes it. Also, why some people are 50-50 on this, I really felt like the Black Cat stuff was heavy-handed. Yes, they're old friends who have been old, who've dated and lovers and so forth, and was the unpieced. And Joe Kelly is a big fan of Black Cat, while other writers don't seem to. And I do feel like Ireland was basically say, yeah, I've got to write these characters, but I really don't feel like I'm going to. She does very good with the pacing. One thing the storyline's been really good with the pacing. It's felt like there's a beginning, middle, and end of the storylines, and it flows naturally to each part. And I do like that about the story, but this scene feels very hard. It just doesn't feel right. It just feels like, yes, they're talking. Yes, Peter needs to talk to somebody, but in the way it's very heavy-handed, and I don't feel really Peter gets much of a break. The fact that he's been killed now 3 times in a row, and if the timeline's right, in less than 2 days, and this has really caused a problem. And it's really kind of a pain here on it. Also, of course, we get to throw in with the upcoming mini series, as many people said, well, if this is dealing with the children of Cyttorak, the Crimson Gem of Cyttorak, which gives me the power of a human juggernaut, which Stan Lee and Jack Kirby did way back when in X-Men that created Kane Markle, the step brother of Professor Xavier, who has been trying to redeem himself over the years. The fact that he wasn't involved in the storyline, and there's going to be an entire mini series about it, and we actually finally get a little bone thrown our way that yes, it's coming, and he's going to have to deal with that soon. But basically, it's like, hey, if you want to know more, go read this mini series. Maybe we'll talk about it. Maybe we won't. But you got to check out the rest of the series to find out. It's definitely a shameless pub that makes sense since this is the Juggernaut, and his powers come directly from Sidorak, but at the same time, it feels kind of parts on that. And also, of course, as we hit the final parts here with the storylines too, here of how this has been going around too. Like I said, I don't have any problems with Ed McGuinness or even Dave Farsos or some of the other artists that are going to be coming up on this book here before the storyline's over. But I do feel like the Scions of Cyttorak are 30 years too late. I feel as many people have related to them as the Inheritors, Morlun and all that too, which is but it kind of feels like they're going to, they're trying to take over the reality, our reality of 616 Marvel Universe, and they keep getting beaten by, as they say, an amateur superhero, and especially and when we have Syra and Calyx, who are the two oldest scions here, which we know Calyx is going to be the bad guy next issue, and Syra is apparently being saved for the final battle here towards the end of the series. It just feels like, yes, there's a good pace. Yes, there's going to be end to this, but we have such a filler arc here. It doesn't feel like it belongs in Amazing Spider-Man. So, continuing with all that said, and with the positive negatives, I'm still going to give this a grade of a C. It's really not bad. I love the mystic side of the Marvel Universe. I always have. I think it's on par with the DC Universe mystical sides, but I enjoy the cosmic and magic side of Marvel Comics a little bit more, but this just does not belong in Spider-Man. It has its fun, its mini-series and everything with Doctor Doom, or coming Emperor Doctor Doom with the thing is all set over in Fantastic Four, but that's over in January. I feel like by the time this is all said and done, we're just going to kind of fit it. It was a filler before, the next creative team gets here in April or May, depending on which one you want to take on it, which we'll be finding out soon. So it wasn't bad. I enjoyed it, but at the same time is I'm really ready for this storyline to go. So, if you do, so I'm going to kind of read it up there into everything else too. If you would like to, of course, see more of her, I think of liking and subscribing to the channel here so you can actually see reviews when they are ready to go. And of course, for more reviews, check us out, the SpidermanCrawlspace.com for all your wonderful issues and so forth. And I'll be back next week with the big holiday. Ultimate Spider-Man issue number 12. Hard to believe it. It's been a whole year for the series, so I'll be over there to do it. And on that note, everybody, I will see everyone later.